broadcast page. Anyone wishing to access this meeting's agenda items and attachments online may do so by visiting the meeting's agendas and minutes page of the MPS website. Before we begin tonight's meeting, we have a short announcement regarding interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience.
Buenas tardes y bienvenidos a la Junta de la Mesa Directiva de las Escuelas Públicas de Milwaukee. Si desea escuchar esta reunión en español, por favor llame al 312-626-6799 e introduzca el número de reunión 832-0725-4267, seguido por el símbolo de número. Luego, introduzca el código 883149, seguido por el símbolo de número. Nuevamente, para escuchar esta reunión en español, llame al 312-626-6799 e introduzca el número de reunión 832-0725-4267, seguido por el símbolo de número. Luego, introduzca el código 883149, seguido por el símbolo de número.
Before we begin our official business, I just want to welcome Dr. Caselius to her first board meeting as the new superintendent of Milwaukee Public Schools. We're so happy to have you. I know it's only day 2, but thank you for joining us for the LRP committee so quickly. For each of our items of business, we will hold a discussion and public hearing. Members of the public may register to speak on tonight's agenda items by filling out a speaker's slip and bringing it to our secretary, Dr. Owen Moore. Written testimony will be accepted for transmittal to the board. Send this testimony to the Office of Board Governance, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53201, or fax to 414-475-8071, or email it to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Speakers may only address the item for which they have registered. Questions from the public may not be answered during the public comment period. Following public comment, the committee will begin its discussion and no additional comments will be accepted. When you are called upon to speak, please state your name and spell your last name for the record. For the sake of fairness, the chair reserves the right to limit the length of time allowed to any one speaker. Please address your comments to the chair. To ensure decorum during the meeting, harassment or intimidation tactics of any kind will not be tolerated. Anyone who disrupts the good order of the meeting will immediately be asked to cease. If disruptive behavior continues, a recess will be called and the offending parties will be removed from the meeting. Anyone ejected from the meeting will not be allowed to rejoin the meeting. However, they may listen to the meeting or access the agenda items online. Virtual speakers are asked to remain on the platform until you are called upon. After speaking, virtual speakers may follow the rest of the meeting using the broadcast information previously mentioned. Finally, on behalf of the board, the chair sincerely thanks everyone participating this evening. Your engagement is vital as we work together to move our schools forward and make decisions that will benefit our students and community. Now, let's begin. Madam Secretary, item 1.
Item 1 is report with possible action on Administrative Policy 4.07, Student Nutrition and Wellness, and Administrative Procedure 4.07, Student Nutrition and Wellness. The recommendation is that the board approve the attached red line revisions of Administrative Policy and Procedure 4.07, Student Nutrition and Wellness.
Would the administration please present the item?
Chair Zomber and members of the committee, Dr. Brenda Caselius, Superintendent. Per Board Governance Policy 2.11, every 5th year, the board and its designee shall revisit all of its policies, rules, and procedures to determine their coherence and appropriateness to the present mission of the district. This evening, the administration requests your approval of Administrative Policy and Procedure 4.07, Student Nutrition and Wellness, to include the required USDA non-discrimination statement. To answer any questions you may have on this item, I have with me Renee Slotin-Beauchamp, Director of Nutrition Services. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any members of the public wish to make comments?
We do not have any speaker slips on this.
Okay. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director Garcia.
Hi, I move that we accept the recommended changes and the redlined items for administrative policy and procedure for 4.07 student nutrition and wellness as presented.
Will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director Garcia's motion to adopt the administration's recommended changes to policy and procedure 4.07, Director Garcia,
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi,
Aye.
Director Jackson,
Aye.
Director Herndon,
Aye.
Chair Zummer.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Item 2 is an action on a request to approve revisions to Board Governance Policy 2.12, Board Audits, Annual Plan and Coordination. The Office of Accountability and Efficiency recommends approval of the revisions as attached to this item.
Would the Office of Accountability and Efficiency please present the item?
Thank you, Chair Zambor. Matt Chasen, Office of Accountability and Efficiency. This is the first of 2 items as it relates to revisions to board policies that intersects with audits and information that is held by the board. Both are the output of collaboration between the board's legal counsel, the Office of Board Governance, and members of the administration. The intent really is to further the independence of the audit function, provide very clear guidance on the process that is to be followed in handling specific types of information related to related to audits and investigations, but also to standardize and operationalize through policy language the handling and treatment of specific attorney-client privileged information. So I think this language that you're seeing in front of you does the job to thread that needle, provide a sufficient independent audit function with the oversight there while protecting information that is privileged to the board. So we recommend approval of the language you see here tonight. Happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you. And with that, I am going to go to public comments on the item. We have 2 speakers registered, Deborah Keither and Teresa Folleron.
Good evening, Deb Keither, Kuether. Thank you this is a good job in getting these overdue reviews of policy underway. That's excellent. But I would like to remind you that on your own org chart, the citizens of Milwaukee are the ones who own the district. MPS, it's not the board, it's not the superintendent, and it is a people. You can look at that on your own org chart. Pretty soon, with the policies you are revising, you will be comparable to a private business. You will no longer have the one thing going for you anymore, being public and owned by the people and governed by the people. In Redline BG 2.12, you have rewritten policy to limit access. Your inclusion of standardized language of privilege is protected by law. Confidential information is not protected by law. And this board abuses that privilege and that language all the time to shield the public from information. I can only see what you will do with the word confidential. Nothing will be available to the public anymore. So you're leaving it up to interpretation, your own discretion, which is very questionable, and whatever decision maker you have in a chair at a given time, whether they're ready or not, or prepared, or know what's going on, this opens you up to liability. Someone could make you turn over confidential information. It is not under the umbrella of privileged information, attorney-client privilege, like so many of you like to parrot back over and over again to the people that pay for this district. Confidential records are not privileged and they are not subject to legal protections. This entity already abuses the privilege, and I can only see the abuse expanding. Thank you so much for giving me time today. I hope that you took some notes and you actually think about the choices that you're making in policy. Policy and law are not the same thing. Law trumps policy, and certain people will hold you to law.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Folleron. Nope, not item 2.
Correct. Item 3, not item 2.
Oh, okay. We'll update that. All right, thank you. Do we have any committee members who wish to make comments or ask questions? No? What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director Gokul Gandhi?
I move approval on Board Governance Policy 2.12.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion, will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director Gokul Gandhi's motion to adopt the recommendations of the Office of Accountability and Efficiency with regard to Board Governance Policy 2.12, Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Chair Zumber.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, the motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Item 3 is action on a request to approve revisions to Board Rule 1.18, legal representation. The Office of Accountability and Efficiency recommends that the revisions be approved as attached to this item.
Would the Office of Accountability and Efficiency please present the item?
Thank you, Chair Zambor. Matt Chasen, Office of Accountability and Efficiency. So all the points that I had shared earlier are applicable here. This was done in concert with the board's legal counsel, the Office of Board Governance, members of the administration. I think this is the more specific language in terms of standardizing across the district. Many offices have the need to inspect records and information throughout, and this standardizes that approach for the board's privilege. So with that, happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you. We're going to go to 2 speakers with requests to speak, Deborah Keither and Teresa Folleron. Ms. Keither?
Good evening, Deb Keither, Kuether. I have a lot of the same sentiments that I just said a moment ago when I spoke on the other language regarding these policies further limit public access instead of expanding it. If you do not, in 1.18, if you do not define what constitutes confidential, you guys are going to slap confidential on everything, okay? We already know that's going to happen. It's already happening right now with the word privilege and claims of attorney-client work product constantly, which does not allow the public to access information that they're rightfully supposed to have access for. And there is hundreds of thousands of dollars misspent blocking the public from records that this district has shielded by the use of attorney-client privilege when it is not appropriate. And I can only guess what's going to happen when you turn on the word confidential and open that up to be slapped on everything. At minimal, you must define what constitutes confidential so that there is an understanding between the people that want to request information and those who hold it back. When is it appropriate? When is it being abused? You must define those things in advance. You just said you were standardizing protocol. Standardize the definitions. Get those on the record in advance. Once again, with these actions, you are making yourself comparable to a private business. And right now, one of the only things you have going for you is the fact that you're public and that you are subject to democratic scrutiny. You take that away, you might as well become a private charter. So the choice is yours. You're gonna create the situation and it's gonna turn out the way that it's gonna turn out. But you must allow the public access to your records. The public funds every part of this district, and it is not fair to deny them access through these restricting policies. You've done it now with recordings that are from this building. Those are subject to public requests. Thank you.
Ms. Falleron, would you? Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Falleron, and I am speaking about my concerns on the proposed change to Board Rule 1.18. The proposed change reads, any privileged or confidential information held by the board that has been requested from district staff in the course of their work shall be reviewed for possible release by the board, by the city attorney, and or retained counsel. On the surface, this appears to be an attempt to undermine MPS employees who are tasked with conducting internal investigations regarding MPS and board activities. The Office of Accountability and Efficiency, highlight the word accountability in that one, audit services, the Employer Rights Administration Department, board governance, all play a role in investigations. The rule uses the language of shall, or in legal terms, MPS will now be obliged to have all privileged or confidential information held by the board reviewed by the city attorney prior to such information being released. And on the surface, it looks like an employee or other seeking such information would have greater access to said information through open records and writs of mandamus. For example, information that is withheld simply because it can open up the district to litigation is not enough to withhold said information. And just because your attorney is present in the building or even in the room doesn't make a closed session non-disclosable during discovery. So one of the common themes among failed businesses is their attempt to add more rules instead of auditing the ability of employees to understand and adhere to rules already in place. Last time I checked, the city attorney's office, legally represents MPS, is already overtaxed and understaffed. In the end, something like 93% of all hidden information will come to light. What this rule suggests is that the board prioritizes self-protection over the health of the institution and the families it serves. Laws, policies, they already exist. I suggest a review of the following terms: shall, statutory sequence, privilege, confidentiality, enforcement actions, and please revisit the word shall prior to approving this change. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item? Director Leonard, do you have a question?
You know, actually, do we actually define any of these terms? I mean, I can't, is there a statute that actually helps us define the terms? I mean, I'm curious as to, I mean, I'm not on this committee. I don't really have to do a lot with it, to be honest with you, and I'm almost finished on the board, but I am curious about if we do define the terms, just out of curiosity.
Would administration or Office of Accountability and Efficiency?
Thank you, Chair Zambor, Matt Chasen, Office of Accountability and Efficiency. So the language that appears in front of you was drafted in response to questions the board had about the treatment of specific privileged information held by the board. And this was the language that was then defined by the board's legal counsel to assist parameterizing what is and is not in that space. So we do not have that representative with us here tonight. If the board wanted additional clarification, I'm certain that we could have that legal representation provide that clarity for you.
Thank you.
So yeah, that would be, I think that would be a great idea, to say the least. And then, out of curiosity, I asked this question and I did not get a chance to look at my notes, so I do apologize. When I looked at the two different forms for this exact item, I didn't see any change in the red line to the, and I don't know what I missed in there.
I did look into this because this was a question you submitted early, so I don't mind answering that. This is added language to it, so the language itself is redlined under there because it's new language.
Okay.
Leonard, do you have a follow-up? Number 5 is additional.
Yeah, it's additional. I did not notice that. I was looking at both items. They looked the same to me. This is just a technical issue. I'm not worth spending a lot of time on. I just was curious. Otherwise, I'm good. Thank you.
Director Garcia.
I move to approve the revisions of Board Rule 1.18, legal representation.
Is there any further discussion? Okay. Will the secretary please call the roll? Oh, sorry, Mr. Chasen.
Yeah, I'm just going to have our Chief Auditor, Mr. Paul Geib, offer some additional comments as well.
Thank you. Mr. Geib?
Chair Zomber, members of the committee, Paul Geib, Chief Auditor. One of the things that I want you to keep in mind is that in my role, I do have to be independent of the administration, and that also means that I have to be mindful as well of my ability to do my job. And when we're talking about restrictions on information, I take that very seriously because I do need to have full, free, unrestricted, the ability to gather information. So if there should be a situation where I'm doing an audit or investigation and I come across something that might be considered privileged or confidential with regard to the board's actions, that would be the time to pause to try to seek further guidance from city attorney or outside legal counsel, because the goal would be to have that information be released, that I can actually use that information in an audit or investigation. So I'm in no way looking at this as a limit on what I'm able to do, but parameters in which I operate.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? No? Okay. Will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director Garcia's motion to adopt the recommendations of the Office of Accountability and Efficiency, Director Garcia,
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi,
Aye.
Director Jackson,
Abstain.
Director Herndon,
Aye.
Chair Zomber.
Aye.
That is 4 ayes and 1 abstained. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is item 4, is action on a request to establish the Milwaukee Public Schools Audit Committee. The Office of Accountability and Efficiency recommends the board approve the establishment of the audit committee as outlined in the attachment.
Would the Office of Accountability and Efficiency please present the item?
Thank you, Chair Zambor. Matt Chasen, Office of Accountability and Efficiency. Not unlike the previous agenda items before this one, the intent of this one is also really to strengthen the independence of the audit function. The creation of an audit committee specifically in the space that we reside as government education is a best practice. It's recommended and it is a practice held by many council-grade city schools. Many of those were in fact researched for building the charter language that you see in front of you this evening. It provides this additional avenue of independence by allowing the chief auditor to report functionally directly to it, and that provides additional arm's length to ensure that he can do the work as charged to him. There's, I think, additional support then for the review, the understanding, and the interpretation of audit findings and recommendations. I think it allows perhaps better visibility, but also, I think, better recognition in front of the board in terms of follow-up by the administration to audit findings that shake out through their reports. And the makeup of the committee, as we have proposed it, is to provide expert advice and guidance so that individuals who have been duly elected through the democratic process, who may not have the professional expertise in their background, that they can rely on these additional experts to provide some of that leading and understanding the work that's presented to them. So lastly, this was one of the items that was present in the CAP with DPI, and this continues to allow us to move forward in meeting all of those requirements as well. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. I know a lot of work and research went into this, so thank you so much for getting it to this place so that we can talk about it tonight. Do we have any members who wish to make comments? I'll go to public speakers first, and then we can discuss. We have Quentin Claybon. If you could state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Hey, Quentin Claybon, K-L-A-B-O-N, also disorganized again today. Long story short, it's great to see progress on the corrective action plan, instituting this, as was mentioned, as required. I wanted to say that the citywide connection hopefully provides an outside view to what the district has going on and also keeps them on track. I would like to connect it to other aspects of the corrective action plan, especially as we close, having missed some December deadlines and closing in on kind of the kind of last March official deadline, and then the May drop dead, financial timelines coming up. The corrective action plan getting updated for the public every 2 months is pretty tough, and especially as we close in on deadlines that need to be met or other districts across the state will get affected. Hopefully those updates could come through monthly or as progress is made. Hopefully the institution of this committee helps catch up the district on all financial deadlines, so that instead of having to play catch up, and even though we're making great progress, just having so much to catch up on that we're likely to miss 2025 deadlines, hopefully it makes it possible to get back on track for a 25-26 fiscal year. Thanks.
Thank you. What is the pleasure of do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Director Herndon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I recommend that we accept the recommendation of administration to establish an audit committee.
Thank you.
Given that this is the recommendation of Office of Accountability and Efficiency, would you like to motion that?
Sure.
Okay.
I move to accept the recommendation of OAE Committee to establish an audit committee.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? I do have a question. I just want to make sure, if everyone had a chance to look at the membership, make sure that everyone's comfortable with the 5 voting members that are on this committee, if you're comfortable with the terms, the length of the terms, the process in which they get approved. Just want to make sure everyone has a chance to look at that. Otherwise, okay. If we're good, then will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director Herndon's motion to approve the recommendations of the Office of Accountability and Efficiency related to establishing an audit committee, Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul-Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Chair Zomber.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Item 5 is work session on policy review, consideration of, and possible action on Section 0000 Board bylaws.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, I know this item is a little bit different than items we normally list on our agendas. Would you be able to give just a brief overview about what's happening with our policies before we begin?
Sure, thank you for that. So earlier last year or later last year, the board decided to move forward with Neola for a policy review of all of our policies. So this is what we're working on tonight, is a work session around the first set of policies. So what we're doing is taking each set of policies that are currently available to the district and have been voted on. They are official, they are standing policies that guide our work. Some of them haven't been updated in a long time. Some of them need to have some statutory updates, some reviews of legal counsel. So this first set is bringing forward the board's bylaws, they dictate how the board operates, and is just currently bringing them forward as they are, with some additions that are clarifications that Neola uses in its standard policy, just to make sure that it's clear how we do our work. And so the board had an opportunity to review this whole section of bylaws earlier on and to ask more questions, get some feedback from Neola. Some of those changes have been made already. And then tonight, what the board can do is, if there are bylaws that there are still questions about that we need to go deeper into, or we might consider making changes into, the board can set aside those and then approve the rest of them. And then those policies that we're going to go into deeper discussion will come back at the end of this process for further discussion. And it'll take about 1.5 years for this whole process, and then we will approve them all at once, and then they will be updated on the website. They will be accessible and easy to use. So hopefully that was short enough.
So for clarification, the approvals tonight do not go into effect until we do the final approval about a year and a half from now, when all of the Neola work is complete.
Absolutely. None of the policies, our policies will stand the way they are while we're doing this work, and then we will approve them all at once, even the ones that we set aside. If we change, if we go deeper into, we'll bring those back. And the policies, if there are policies that need to be changed in the interim, like during that year, we will still bring them to LRP like we did tonight and do those regular changes, put them on the website the way they've been done, and that way we still have that guiding policy along the way.
Okay, thank you so much. That's very helpful. Does anyone have questions about that process? Okay. Madam Secretary, do you have a list of policies to set aside already, or do we need to?
I do not have any
Okay.
that have been requested to set
Okay.
aside.
Do any members of the committee wish to set policies aside tonight? Director Gokul-Gandhi.
I just, before I set this aside, I just want to clarify something. So by setting policies aside, this means a deeper dive, one, into the legal sort of jurisprudence of the policy to the application as it results to the district, whether it be like an updating or thinking if we need the policy or rescinding of the policy. So just for the listening public, those are some types of actions that could be taken with a deeper review of a certain policy item.
Absolutely. And some of them, as you set them aside and we have the discussion, we might already be able to explain the statutory piece behind it or why it is the way it's done. And so those might be able to go forward tonight, but otherwise we could set aside for further review by our legal counsel.
Okay, I have a few I would like to set aside.
Okay. If you could, do you have
I
the
can-
policy number on the title?
I do have the policy number, yep. So 014.2, qualifications. That's really addressing where a board member lives and what process we follow to ensure that. 0155.7, our board advisory committees. I think we've talked a lot about like all the different advisory committees that this board has. I don't think I've seen a full list, and to understand the functionality of each of those, if we need to close those committees, if we need to advance the work of the committees. So would like to see a list of that. 0172, legal counsel, exploring if we are, what are our options? Oftentimes, I think on this board, we've found that we do have to defer to outside legal counsel because of a conflict of interest, which puts the district at a financial obligation that can be taxing, no pun intended. And 0175.1, conferences. I know the policy currently states that it's at the behest of the board president, but I'm wondering if there can be sort of a more flat policy that the Office of Board Governance gives each board member a budget line item for conferences, and then that's the way we proceed. So those are the policies I'd like to set aside.
Do any other members of the committee wish to set a policy aside for discussion? I also would like to set aside 142.5, vacancies, 144.6, code of ethics, 167.3, public comment. Okay. So then why don't we begin with,
Madam Chair, you need
Yes.
to have a motion on the balance of the ones that you're not setting aside. So to be clear, that motion would mean that you're approving the recommendations for all of the policies that you have not set aside.
okay, would anyone like to make that motion?
I move to approve the balance of the policies not remaining.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Gokul-Gandhi's motion to approve the balance of the policy recommendations, Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul-Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Jackson. Aye. Director Herndon.
Aye.
Chair Zomber.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, the motion passes.
Okay, so then is it okay if we go to the first policy, which is 041.2, qualifications? Director Gokul-Gandhi, would you like to make comments on that policy?
Yeah, I just, some clarification. We've gone back and forth, I think, with the Election Commission on who and what and how we verify where people live, and I think I'm just curious to hear from your angle if we need more language in here to do that, or if a process needs to be outlined.
Office of Board Governance?
Madam Chair, members, with that being the question, my conversations with the Election Commission, it's actually unclear whose responsibility it is to verify residency, whether it's MPS's responsibility or the city's. So I would recommend moving to hold this one in committee so that the team can get some additional guidance from the city attorney.
Okay. Do we need to do a motion on each one of these policies one by one?
Madam Chair, you do.
Okay, would you like to make a motion?
Yep, I move that we hold policy 014.2 of qualifications in committee for further examination.
Is that 142.2?
Yes.
Is that, okay.
Sorry, I might have had the wrong.
Repeat that number for me.
142.2?
142.2, thank you.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Gokul Gandhi's motion to hold policy 0142.2 in committee, Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Chair Zomber.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, that motion passes.
Okay. Madam Secretary, next item.
The next policy set aside is policy 0155.7,
Board Advisory Committees.
advisory committees.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
So again, just from my previous explanation, curious if you've done an analysis of current and future state, what each committee has been tasked to do, and if those items have been achieved, and if we can close out some of those committees. So would like to hear from the Office of Board Governance.
We have not done that, but we can. That is not something we've done at this point.
Okay.
So then hold in committee, would that be the correct pathway forward?
Yeah, I believe so, and then we'd correct
Okay.
it.
So I move that we hold policy 0155.7, Board Advisory Committees in committee.
Is there any further discussion? Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Yes. On Director Gokul Gandhi's motion to hold policy 0155.7 in committee, Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Chair Zomber.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, the motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next policy is policy 0172, legal counsel.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
So just wanted to explore what's statutorily available to us. Are we able to do in-house legal counsel? Are we able to redetermine the agreement that might not be allowed? And if that's okay, I'm happy for you to tell me that.
I do believe that the policy language that is there does set out the statutory requirements for when we can and cannot use outside legal counsel. And so it is pretty clear in there. We did look at that.
Okay, we can dispense of that one then.
You would,
A motion.
Madam Chair, you still need a motion to adopt. If you don't wish to make modifications, it would be to adopt as recommended.
Okay. I move that we adopt 0172, legal counsel, as stated in the policy list.
Okay. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
On Director Gokul Gandhi's motion to adopt policy 0172 as recommended, Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Chair Zomber.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, the motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next item, please.
All right. The next item is policy 0175.1, conferencing.
Me.
Vacancies?
Is that
Oh, 175.1 is
Did I
correct.
do the wrong one?
175.1?
Sorry. Okay, let me make sure.
You're faster than I am tonight.
Oh, do you have one more?
I have two more.
You have two more. I'm sorry. I thought we were going to mine.
This
I
is
was
school board conferences, conventions, workshops, and expenses.
Yeah, so just the standard operating procedure for this, that maybe goes through the Office of Board Governance, since you have access to the budget and other, approving conferences and looking at those. I think perhaps taking that responsibility on, or just a different process would be better.
So are you suggesting like language to the policy itself that defines when, okay, we can take a motion then to set this, leave this one in committee so that we can further develop it?
Okay, I move that 0175.1 be held in committee for further development.
Okay, will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director Gokul Gandhi's motion to hold policy 0175.1 in committee for further development, Director Garcia,
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director Herndon. Chair Zomber.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next policy item is 0142.5 vacancies.
Oh, sorry, point of information. Did we approve did I pull the committee policy, 0155?
You did Board Advisory Committees 0155.7.
Okay, is there one for our actual committee? Did I miss that one? Our actual committee structure?
I do.
There are several.
Yeah, so that's 0155.2 through 6, correct? I think I missed asking to,
But, so, we're on this item now. After this
Okay.
item, you can make a motion to
Perfect.
reconsider adoption of the balance of the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then
Okay.
set those aside.
my apologies. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so you made a motion on this one?
I'll let you go. I'm sorry, can you answer a process question? Do you want me to make the motion now?
No,
No.
you can't. You're on this item.
Okay.
Which is 142.5.
Oh, okay.
That's
so-
yours, yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Actually, may I pass the gavel for
Yeah,
these?
absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Would committee members like to make comments about this? Yes, Director Zombor.
So I'm looking at vacancies. I think this is page 22 in your packet. I did have a question about, it does talk about if a board member is absent for 4 successive board meetings without presenting satisfactory reason, therefore in writing to the board. I do have a question about if we can strengthen or clarify, like what is satisfactory. I know some of this is statutory language that we probably pulled right from the state statutes, but just for our own internal like guidelines, or maybe this is something that just goes into like a board orientation policy, just being like really clear about what our expectations are and how we should be reporting that to the board. I guess that's one conversation I'm hoping we could have or consider.
You could suggest amended language, or we could set this aside for, to
Okay.
speak with our attorney also to make sure that we are.
Okay.
Yeah, so hold it over in committee would be the proper.
I will probably do that, but then my other, I think my other question on this was, it references Wisconsin statute 119.10, parent 5. That particular statute also includes that if a person appointed or elected by the board is absent or unable to perform duties of the person's office, the board may elect or appoint a suitable person in act of the person's place. I guess my question is, would it also be beneficial to add that statutory language to this policy just to provide further clarity? And maybe that's something we could also talk about with legal representation. Does that work? Okay. So then I move to hold policy 0142.5 in committee.
Madam Secretary?
On Director Zomber's motion to hold policy 0142.5 over for committee, Director Garcia,
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi,
Aye.
Director Jackson,
Aye.
Director Herndon,
Aye.
Chair Zomber.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, the motion passes.
Okay, would you like me to hold on to the gavel? Thank you. Next item, please.
The next policy item is policy 0144.6. I did not catch.
This is, I think this is
Ethics.
the
Code of ethics.
Code of Ethics.
Director Zomber.
Okay, and this is more of a comment, maybe not, I don't have a suggested revision, but I I think this is really important language for us to highlight and talk about, and I think address, and that is the line in here that said, board members are free to contact any MPS employee for information that will assist in carrying out a board member's responsibilities. Additionally, any MPS employee may contact a board member to offer information for which the employee reasonably believes would aid the board member in that member's board responsibilities. In all such contact, the board member shall be cognizant of the need to not interfere with employees' job responsibilities or the chain of command. This bylaw shall not be taken as permission for employees to harass board members. I think what's important here is that I am still worried, and I think all of us have experienced that some staff do not feel comfortable talking to us, or they've been told not to talk to us. And I don't think, this is obviously a code of ethics for the board, but we do need to address in policy, what are the consequences if someone's saying they can't talk to a board member? I mean, I understand we do not want to interfere with a chain of command. We're not directing people's work, but people should not feel scared to talk to us or tell us what's happening.
Office of Board Governance.
Given that this item specifically is around the board members' conduct, it likely would not be situated in this policy, but as we move forward with other sections of the policies, that question will definitely come up in those sections.
Director Zomber.
So then sorry, point of information, what would be the best motion to approve this item?
So you could go ahead and motion to adopt as recommended.
Okay, I move to adopt as recommended.
Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Zomber's motion to adopt policy 144.6 as recommended, Director Garcia,
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi,
Aye.
Director Jackson,
Aye.
Director Herndon,
Aye.
Chair Zomber.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, the motion passes.
Okay, Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next policy item is item 0167.3, public comments.
Director Zomber.
Thank you, Director Gokul Gandhi. So my comments on this, so this looks like there's some new language that's recommended from Neola around kind of recording, filming, photographing our open meetings, and some of this is related to press. So, but one of it is the person operating the equipment should contact the superintendent. It does reference the statutes that allows this being permitted, but then it says the person operating the equipment should contact the superintendent prior to the board meeting to review the possible placement of the equipment and must agree to abide by the following conditions. So one, I have a concern about contacting the superintendent. I don't know that we want our superintendent to have to field a bunch of media requests about where they can put their cameras before the meeting. So I do think we need to work on that a little bit more. We don't require that currently. And then I noticed C, no interviews are conducted in the meeting room while the body is in session. I think it would be really good, because sometimes we get a situation where there's media there and we're about to retire into executive session and they want to do interviews, but we're still in a meeting, and there's lawyers that are here, they're waiting for us, people. So I think this language is good, but if we could also expand on, even if we are coming from this stage, going into executive session, we're still in the meeting and we can't be doing interviews in the middle of a meeting. And just asking, just giving more guidance to the media when they're here so that they know, we're not trying to be rude, we're still in a meeting. I think that would be really helpful.
Madam Secretary.
I think that's a great point, and we can share that information with the media and hold them to it as well. And then I'm wondering if the language shouldn't be the Office of Board Governance instead of the superintendent in regards to that, because they typically do. Jill has a question. Typically, they contact us with regards to setting up and all of this space. So.
Ms. Koala, do you have a comment?
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to point out, they do contact us, but we will have a definition section for the policy manual once it's all adopted.
Okay.
And within policy, superintendent is going to be understood to mean superintendent or their designee, which in this case would probably be the comms team. That would be the one advising media about what they can and can't do as far as setup.
Okay. Director Gokul Gandhi?
Yeah, what
Oh,
is
I'm
your
sorry.
recommend? No, it's
You're still
totally fine.
sharing. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's okay. Do you want the gavel back? Do you have more, does she have more?
I have a motion I have to
Okay.
make, sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Director Zomber. Do you have a motion you want to make? You don't have a
Well,
motion?
I was,
What would you like to do?
We can
You
hold
you
it.
want to go to administration? Do you have any comments? Sorry. I'm trying to figure out what you want.
Director Zambor, members of the committee, Eduardo Galvan, Deputy Superintendent. We will work with the board governance to, when there are media requests, make sure that we can accommodate them in the area, and furthermore, based upon the earlier conversation, outline when those interviews and things can occur.
So does the Office of Board Governance recommend that Director Zambor make a motion to hold this for further discussion?
You may wish to make a motion to adopt with a modification that clarifies that an executive session or a recess to go into executive session is part of the meeting,
Director Zomber?
whatever you
Yeah.
wish, but you could adopt it with that modification.
thank you. I am comfortable with the superintendent language now that you clarified that that could also mean communications. Sure, I would move to adopt with no interviews are conducted in the meeting room while the body is in session. I don't know if you want me to make the language right now.
Which includes
Which
closed
includes
session.
going into closed session.
Okay, and then once you're ready, you can go ahead and call the roll on that policy revision. I'm just trying to buy time.
For taking that very slowly.
Very
I appreciate
slowly.
that. On Director Zomber's motion to adopt policy 0167.3 with language to include, which includes when the board moves into executive session. Director Garcia?
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi?
Aye.
Director Jackson?
Aye.
Director Herndon?
Aye.
Chair Zomber?
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item,
I can
please.
take the gavel back.
Okay, and I'm going to pass the gavel back.
Okay, Madam Secretary, next item, please.
I believe that was our last policy
Hey, ooh.
item. No?
Oh,
you
go
wanna-
ahead, Director
yes.
Garcia.
Oh, I wanted to also pull one, 142.7 orientation.
Can I loop pull one in with hers, or does it need to be a separate
We
motion?
need,
You need to make a motion to reconsider your previous action to adopt the balance of the reports. If that motion passes, then members could set aside additional items. We would also respectfully ask that you reconsider your action on policy 172.
Legal
The draft
counsel.
that we presented does not incorporate OAE's recommendations that you just approved today.
Okay.
So we would need I'll speak more to it when you do that one, but if you could,
Do you want to do the?
somebody
So
could
do
set
we
that
have
one aside.
a motion?
I move that we reconsider the balance of the policies and,
1.172?
oh, you want me to make all of those
If
items together?
the appropriate motion would be to reconsider action on the balance of the
Okay, I move to
recommendations
reconsider.
and reconsider action on policy 172.
Okay, great. I move that we reconsider the balance of the action on the motion and reconsider policy item 1.72.
Will the secretary please call the roll? Are there any other that needed to be set aside or reconsidered?
No,
They would have to be set aside after you approve the
Sure.
motion to
Okay.
reconsider the balance.
okay, on Director Gokul Gandhi's motion to reconsider the board's prior motion to accept the balance of recommendations and to reconsider policy 0172. Director Garcia?
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi?
Aye.
Director Jackson?
Aye.
Director Herndon?
Aye.
Chair Zomber?
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam
So-
Secretary, next item.
The next item would be to reconsider 172, right?
Okay, I move that we reconsider item 172.
Or
Thank-
is- Are you asking to?
Well, you don't need to
approve with that?
move to reconsider it. We would need a new motion to adopt the recommendations for policy
With the
172,
language.
including.
Got it. The
new
updated language.
For
Okay.
point 5.
Okay, I move that we I move that we include the new language from the recommendations from the Office of Accountability and Efficiency regarding legal counsel and implement that into policy 1.72.
Great.
Will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director Gokul Gandhi's motion to adopt policy 172, including the new language from the Office of Accountability and Efficiency adopted tonight in 2.12? Is it 2? Yes. Director Garcia?
1.18.
And 1.18.
Aye.
Director Garcia, aye. Director Gokul Gandhi?
Aye.
Director Jackson? Aye. Director Herndon?
Aye.
Chair Zomber?
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, the motion passes.
It took 4 years to understand how to word that and do that. So I just want, to any newbies listening out there, it is not easy to make motions.
No, and this is a whole new process for the whole board and all of our offices, so I appreciate the
And thank you
grace
for
and humor.
Some little
listening
board
audience
governance humor.
for bearing with us while we get used to our new Neola workflow.
Yes.
Um,
So there was.
Next item, please.
I heard that there was the desire to set aside a couple of additional items.
Yeah, so I would like to pull 142.7 orientation. And my hope is to leave it at committee. And then this is coming from the fact that I know that the Office of Board Governance is really beefing up orientation. And as we do that, just making sure that that aligns with the policy and really looking forward to how that's going to look.
Great.
Thank you. And would the Office of Board Governance be able to comment a little bit about the work that's already gone into that policy as it relates to the orientation? That's a new policy,
Madam
right,
Chair,
that's in
members,
here?
yes, this is entirely new language that, like, our orientation has not been codified in policy before. So all of this is stuff that we've considered, and it's based on feedback from board members about, things that they would have liked to see or that they want included in their orientation. So,
Yes, thank you so much. It's so important. Okay.
And so I believe that there's a motion on the floor to hold that over in committee.
Director Garcia?
Yes, because I feel like there might be some things that come up in this year and a half.
Did you make, point of information, did
Yes.
you make a motion
Yes.
formally? Oh, okay. I must have missed that, sorry.
Yes, I think I did.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay. Then, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Garcia's motion to hold policy 142.7 over in committee, Director Garcia,
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi,
Aye.
Director Jackson, Director Herndon,
Aye.
Chair Zomber.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
I believe that is all of our policy
I got
items
one.
now, but nope. Oh, sorry, Gokul Gandhi.
Director Gokul
Gokul
Gandhi.
Gandhi.
Okay, I move that we hold 0155.2, 0155, to 0155.6, which is all of our committees. 2 reasons. One, I think I've said in my entirety on this board that the way we do committees is not necessarily the most efficient. Second, we have a new superintendent, so I think with the reorganization of the strategic plan, our long-range facilities master plan, the instructional audit, the operational audit, there are going to be different things that we need to consider, and we need to reestablish how we do our work. For instance, this work session is something, this is a novel thing, this is the first time we've done this, and so how do we allow for more room for the board to have open work sessions and for the public to come and see that work and then comment on that work. And so my intent with pulling this is let's really take some time to reconsider this body's work and the way we show up at these board meetings and then what that looks like in partnership with the new superintendent.
Thank you. Any discussion on that motion? No? Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Gokul Gandhi's motion to hold over in committee policies 0155.2, 0155.3, 0155.4, 0155.5, and 0155.6. Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Chair Zomber.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, the motion passes.
Okay, Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Madam Chair, that was, yep.
If
Now we
there are
have to
no
approve the
other
balance.
policies set aside, you need to take a new,
approve the
new
balance.
action on adopting the balance of the recommendations.
Director Garcia.
I move that we adopt the balance of the items before the board, the committee.
Will the secretary please call the roll?
On Director Garcia's motion to adopt the balance of items, Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Jackson.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Chair Zomber.
Aye.
That's 5 ayes, the motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Madam Chair, that was the last item on this meeting's agenda.
Okay, with that, this meeting is adjourned. Just as a reminder, the meeting of the Committee on Accountability, Finance, and Personnel will begin shortly. And